Welcome to Arcade Couch, best place to chill with your friends and get your gaming goodness every Monday. My name's Dylan Blight. Joining me on the couch this week, Ashley Hobley.
Hey Dylan, excited to be here, and I'm really glad we're not on Twitch. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to listen to this podcast.
Why? Is that
Why not?
we don't
Because we get a copyright strike.
Would we
Yeah.
DMCA somebody listening to our
anything with the
podcast?
tune. I think they're just doing anything with any tune in it.
Yes.
That's what they're doing now, aren't
Is
they?
it just? Are you saying our theme is
The
enough
open-
tune?
our theme, yeah.
But so it's just to
It
counteract that,
kind
you
of
would
sounds
just-
like something.
I'll also hear Kira Margin.
Hey everybody! You know what? If we were on Twitch, I don't think it'd be that much of a problem. But that's fine. Welcome to Next Gen, everybody. I'm sure you've all enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed it.
Well, hopefully anyone who managed to get one. I mean, I think because we all got one and we've been talking about it, we keep missing
Just
the fact.
presuming that I'm
Listen-
surprised by the amount of people that didn't get PlayStations. Like, because it was like it felt so effortless to get one on like pre-order day because of how it went down.
My alt opening for this week was going to be, I'm excited to be here, but fuck scalpers.
Well, and I looked on eBay
You look
last
at
night.
eBay and yeah.
I did last night. 1,600, and they're selling, and I really wonder.
Well, they've got bids.
People do it.
Yeah, they got bids.
People will
So
do it.
some were fake
Like,
bids. I
it's-
clicked on one, and you can see fake history. There'll be names that start with like A, and there'll be like star H, and I'm like, that person's name is literally has to be arsehole. And like, other ones would be like B star, like it would be like bitch, fucking, like you could tell people were doing fake bids for some, but
Yeah.
others that looked like legit because they had like user
Proper
history,
names,
like
weird.
they had history. They went like fresh accounts with a ranking of 0. So I guess that's the difference anyway.
Look, as the general vice president for FOMO, I completely understand people feeling that way. Like, it's
Would you pay
but
$1,600
I would never
for
play it. No, I refuse to pay it.
Yeah.
But there's some people that, some people might feel like a social connection and need a social connection through a console, and they're going to that level to do it. Like it's you know what? So that's the worst bit of scalpers. It's the people who they're preying on buying it that is the worst part of scalping. Not just the fact that people don't get consoles. It's just the people that they have that prey on them to actually get to pay for it is much worse.
Yeah. I saw like an image of somebody who had like a pallet full of PlayStation 5s.
Yuck.
Like in their house.
What?
So,
Fuck.
all right, guys, we take the three of us. We're gonna Robin Hood style. We're gonna get a couple like Supras, lower them down, paint them black. We're gonna find the truck route, and we're gonna Fast and Furious style
Steal some
heist
DVD
some
players.
PlayStations.
Oh, I mean, PS5.
Some PS5 gameplay.
And then
Have you ever
if
thought
you
about random factor? So one thing we didn't bring up when we talked about Fast and Furious, you should listen to our Fast and Furious podcast called It's About Family.
Definitely.
Our podcast. So
Definitely.
Anyway, one thing that's interesting about that I only clicked onto after we finished watching the podcast, I don't think we brought up on it. How weird is it that they're stealing DVD players? And like, would that...
Yeah.
Because I never thought about it watching it myself, but I'm like, if I showed that to some like 10, 12, whatever, like 15-year-old, even 15-year-old now,
Yeah,
would they be like,
dude.
what are they stealing? Like, they're worth $10. $10 DVD players. Like, what the fuck are they?
Exactly. That's why we remake Fast and Furious 1
They're still on PS5s.
So everybody listening, if there's a new member of the Explosion Network at some point, we've probably done something bad and they're an undercover like FBI agent / cop. So, just so everybody's aware.
Fair enough.
To be fair, that movie came out in 2001.
Yeah, I know. It's a thing of its time. It's just funny that,
19 years ago.
like, it's funny things like that.
I'm pretty sure people were still using floppy disks around then. So
I love it. Next Gen week, and we've started the show talking about Fast and
DVD
Furious.
players, floppy disks.
By the way, shout out to floppy
players.
disks. I had a floppy disk in primary school and I used to store my homework on it. So they went quite out of fashion when I was in school. Today on the show,
3.5 megabytes.
if that. Today on the show, we're talking about Next Gen. That is the entirety of the topic. Of course, we did earlier in the week a special Platinum Exposure episode that you should go listen to, where was joined by Radio Watson's Buddy Watson, where we did our day one thoughts on the PS5. Today, I'm going to be talking about my time with the Xbox Series X, because of course that was actually a couple of days prior to the PlayStation. And I think in a lot of ways, and this is going to be one of the talking points to kind of kick it off, I would say the PS5 launch has, at least in my Twitter sphere and my opinion, completely overshadowed the Xbox launch. Like, Xbox came out. I saw a couple of people that were excited, of course, like especially if they Xbox content creators, whatever. But it didn't really feel like a launch. PlayStation 5 came out. Everyone's fucking hyped.
I feel like that's very much I've seen more people in America excited about Xbox than it coming out, when it did. I think here in Australia, there's just and especially in our circles, it's very much PlayStation skewed, like very heavily PlayStation skewed. So I'm not surprised that it hasn't. But then, look, I think PlayStation is, as an Xbox fan, I think PlayStation has just done a better job of launching. Just flat out, it's just like the launch lineup is maybe the best launch lineup that any console has ever had, in my opinion. And
I would say one that you've been a part of.
One that I've been a part of. I don't think was the PlayStation 3 is that good.
I mean,
because I don't think in terms of like
opinion,
the major consoles, I can't remember the Xbox 360s being amazeballs.
A lot of Nintendo consoles have had arguably some of the best.
Possibly. Okay, that's
launches.
fair. We'll see. I guess. Okay, modern day launches of like current gen between the two. When we've been more focused on like the two. I don't want to say two party.
Even before then, who knew what launch lineups were before? Arguably PlayStation, Nintendo 64 era.
Yeah.
True. Taru. But I think, PlayStation just had a better launch lineup, so there were things to talk about the console rather than Xbox comes out and Xbox looks like awesome hardware and cool, it starts all my old games up really fast and it has all these kind of like Xbox is as we discussed in private when we've discussed it kind of out of the show with yourself, Dylan, was that Xbox kind of has gone through the attempt of refining what they already had and making what they already had better and good and adding features to that. Whereas I always feel like as we discussed on Platinum Explosion, PlayStation 5 is a whole new experience for gaming. Like it just feels like a new experience. It feels like a next-gen console because you have the controller feels completely different to any controller we've ever really played with before. It's new technology. It's a new experience, whereas Xbox is just the hardware there, almost much like a computer. It's just, it doesn't have anything to really display. Even having Like a Dragon come out with it, Yakuza, is not that good because that game, from all I've seen, that game doesn't seem to display next generation console moments.
It has a distinct art style that's. It's not going to look much better on your Series X than it will on a PS4 or an Xbox One S or whatever.
Yeah,
it has faster load times apparently, but that's about it. But that game does have a distinct art style that doesn't really lend to suddenly.
Like the Yakuza stuff, even on PlayStation 4, when I've looked at Yakuza games, I've never thought, wow, that game looks impressive or looks good. Like it's always, like it kind of looks like it's been the same kind of art style and graphics for maybe the last couple of generations. So it's nothing, too special.
So my Xbox, here's my Xbox Series X thoughts. Straight up, let's say this about both consoles. They're both super powerful, mega jumps from what we had. That is like a given for both. I don't think it really matters if you're coming from, or it's a bigger jump if you're coming from like an Xbox One and a base PS4. But as someone who had a PS4 Pro, but not an Xbox One X. But I think no matter what, if you had the Pro model either, I think the jump to either console is significant enough that you will feel it. And of course, a lot of that just comes from the fact that both consoles now use SSDs and have these improved load times in games, and also the UI and overall user experience on both consoles is just so much faster and cleaner. In a lot of ways, it's just I wish we'd had them sooner because boy, does it really like I could not go back to either now, like just from a UI standpoint of how even cleaner everything is.
The fact of just how much better it plays old games, where it's like, man, imagine if Last of Us or Ghost of Tsushima or
Ghost of Tsushima does run better.
It does run better now. It runs better now. But imagine if when we initially got that game, it was just initially straight out onto PlayStation 5.
I think the fact that a lot of older games, or at least games that have released over the last couple of years, have received patches to now run better on these consoles, kind of shows that we may have needed these consoles a couple of years ago.
And I think I think the thing is as well. I think with the Xbox 360 PS3 generation swing, I feel like at the end of that generation swing, you could feel in the moment, you could feel that games were kind of starting to push the limits of these consoles, and we needed something else. Whereas I don't think I could say the same thing about the last generation. Like at the end, that's in gear. Like at the time, I couldn't feel that the PlayStation 4 is getting outdated or the Xbox One Series X is getting outdated. I wasn't feeling that way. But as soon as we start playing with these and we look back retrospectively, it's now really fucking obvious that is the case entirely.
That's the same thing. Anytime I see anyone make a remark about how, like, even to Ash, every time he's like, 4K, what's this? I don't need it, all this sort of stuff. Like, I often find that people who make these remarks who are like, ray tracing, don't need it. HDR, don't need it. 4K, don't need it. Like, it's always, you don't know if you do, or you don't know the difference until you actually see it. So it's all well and good to constantly be like, we don't need it. Okay, well, you may not need it, but I don't think kill time for 5 seconds. I just realized I should grab my Xbox controller for this show and tell.
Do grab your Xbox controller.
I will continue to say that we still don't need ray tracing or 4K graphics.
We do, actually, we do.
I mean, it's nice. Is really pretty. It's really good to look at, but I don't think a game like Astrobot would change that much if it wasn't as graphically impressive as it is.
But I still think Astrobot still feels like a whole new experience even more because of those features. Because I think Astrobot looks really fucking good. Like, Astrobot looks stunning, and I don't think that's in part is because I think
it would still feel next gen.
But I still feel
graphical upgrade.
But it feels even more next generation. It's like giving an artist, but being like, hey, you can't use any of these brand new stuff over here or brand new art techniques. You only can use the current stuff that you have. Like, of course, if you shut down those options, that's pointless. Like, I don't.
Listen, it's like we need water to survive. This is like full on hardcore alcohol.
But you're like people,
really nice stuff.
No. Actually, look, we don't know your exact age, but I can guarantee you weren't around during the caveman or prehistoric eras because you as a caveman would be like, we have fire. We don't need any further invented. We don't need anything more. We're good. We have fire. It hot. It burns stuff. We cook. Like that's you, Ashley. We don't need to grow any. We don't need to go further because we're good with what we've got. That's such a.
No, we just need that, but it's not wrong to aim higher.
Then it's not wrong to aim higher with consoles.
I'm just saying that you don't need 4K graphics.
Technically, we don't need video game consoles. Like, if you want to start going down.
Yeah. Well, technically, we were good with the NES. Or we were
books
good back
are pretty
then.
good.
Yeah. Like, if you want to go down that road, then you opening up like a certain can of worms.
Like, just everything, just TV shows that you watch, Ashley. Like, you wouldn't. What what do you want to read? No, is that what what podcast would be called? Because no TV shows were needed and no movies.
Let's be honest, in this alternate universe, there would be no podcast. So,
that's also true. What exactly? We've got music to listen to.
All right, so
why do we?
Here's what a rundown of here's what I tried out my my Series X. So for the was it 3 days? What? I can't remember. It's been a long
2 days.
2 days.
It was 2 days in between. It was the Tuesday, then you had the Wednesday, and then the Thursday PlayStation came out.
Okay. So I played Bright Memory, which I've got a review for. I tried out. That is a Series X launch game. Of course, it's a PC port. It came out early in the year for PC. I then tried out a couple other games that just see if they run better. So I tried Crackdown 3 because I found that game had a lot of frame rate issues and other sort of things. I jumped into the Outer Worlds because, of course, you remember when I tried playing that on my Series S, I thought it looked like shit and then ended up switching over to my PC to play it. I then played the Falconeer, which is that's a Series X launch game. It's also available for PC. I wrote a review for that one as well. I tried out Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which I'd never got around to trying before. That is a Xbox Series X enhanced game. I played the entirety of Tetris Effect Connected's camp. In fact, I'm just going to say it right now. I played Tetris Effect Connected the most of any Xbox Series X game because I love that game and they gave me a chance to replay it. and I went for it. I'll come back to this because I also played a fair bit of the multiplayer mode, and that's of course the new part of this. And then I put a fair chunk of time also into Forza Horizon 4. So there's what I've managed to play. So I'll just get out of the way the couple of older games
the
that got
enhanced stuff.
enhanced stuff.
So
or
all
even
the
stuff that
games, you
wasn't.
mean?
Hey?
When you say older, you mean all the games, right?
What? No, I'm just mean the stuff that's
actually.
enhanced or not actually
God,
Series
actually,
X
other
launch
words.
lineup
No, that's
stuff.
not true. Falconeer was new.
So Crackdown 3 I only played it for like half an hour, but I will say in the half an hour I went around and I just tried to blow up as much stuff as possible because of course that's when I remember getting frame drops and hang-ups in the original. And although that game is not enhanced, I felt like it was not it wasn't having any issues. So I think that's just one of those games where, and you'll probably run into a lot of these where they just run better by circumstance of running under a more powerful machine. The Outer Worlds, I only mucked around for like half an hour on that. It looks as good as I remember playing it on my PC, which is exactly what I wanted because my whole problem with that game was it just kind of looked like shit, in my opinion, on the Xbox S version, One S version, and now I'm playing it, and of course it's running at the full. I think it doesn't run in proper 4K, I don't think. But anyway, I was running, of course, the high specs you get on PC.
Well, nothing you did, unless it hasn't been enhanced, has it?
No, it hasn't been enhanced.
No,
But
because it would have checkerboarded.
And now it's running
Yeah.
at the quality it would have been if I had a
Yeah, no, 100%.
One X,
Yeah.
which I didn't have. So, but I just wanted to check it out just to have a go. So, then of course, Ori and the Will of the Wisps is enhanced. It received 2 modes. One lets you play the game at 120 frames per second if you have a TV that's capable of that. Mine does not. No, hold on.
Do you know even if you don't have a TV that's capable of it, it's still beneficial to use it?
You can't use it. No, so,
You can't use it at all. It closes it off normally because normally with like say with like a 140 hertz monitor for a PC, you could say if you didn't have a 140 hertz, you could still up the frames and that would still have some improvement on your monitor, even if it didn't have that hertz.
No. So the way it works on both consoles is if you've got a TV that's capable of a HDMI, was it 2.1 now? Yeah.
Yeah.
If you've got a HDMI 2.1 capable TV that can do 4K 120 frames, you can then go into the Xbox and the PlayStation video options. And that it should automatically check it, but you can, of course, change these things yourself. I could set my Xbox to do 1080 120. My TV will not do 120 4K. I, of course, left it at 4K because I'm happy with just maxing out at 60 on most of these games, and that's quite good enough for me. So I'm definitely not going to take the loss to 1080. So the other mode in Ori was 6K super sampled, which basically means that they output a 6K image and then it's just brought back, it's down resoluted to 4K, so you get the enhanced image quality. It's like what's a good way to explain it? It's like if you ever brought like a Blu-ray player back in the day and you put like a DVD in it, it would kind of like sort of
it would still improve it. Yeah.
And that game is absolutely stunning. Of course, it was probably stunning before, but I obviously have 6K textures brought down to even 4K. Just such that game really achieves what it's going for, which is, hey, we want to look like a beautiful Studio Ghibli thing, but like you're playing it, and it is absolutely beautiful. That's probably one of the better looking games I've played in some time. If the PS5 was coming out like a week or 2 weeks apart from the Series X, then I would have been still playing Ori, or probably would have finished it by now, I would say, because I was having a lot of fun playing it, and I would like to definitely go back and finally finish that one. Very beautiful game. Then the other enhanced one was Forza Horizon 4. So I played Forza Horizon 4, reviewed it in 2018 on my Xbox One S, where it ran at 1440p and it ran at 30 frames locked. And I enjoyed it a lot. I had some visual issues like bugs, hiccups every now and then, like frame rates would kind of, like jitters or this sort of thing. Not enough that obviously it ruined the game for me, but I did go back and look at my review and I mentioned these sorts of things. And so I put probably 6 to 8 hours into Horizon over on that first day, I think, roughly, and it now runs at 60 locked 4K. You couldn't even do this on Xbox One X. I'm so proud that I haven't fucked up one too. So you couldn't on the One X. You could either play Forza at 60 frames at like 1080, I think it was, in like a performance mode, or 4K lock 30. So even on the One X, you didn't have the option. Now on the Series, you actually get the best of both worlds. You get 60 buttery smooth experience, and I went back and like looked at gameplay I captured for my review of the when I was playing on my One S, and my god, like when I'm comparing the 60
what
frames,
terrible garbage it was.
yeah, it looked like shit when you're comparing it to 60 frames.
Would have. Yep.
Like, I could definitely not go back, especially when you're playing a racing game like that. Just
Actually,
like,
he's such a little gremlin. My God.
it's like he's the worst person to have on about any of these consoles, because literally
About
all of the
next gen,
features
because-
are things that he's like, oh, this is garbage. We don't need any of these fucking things.
You know what? I can't look at my phone anymore because it loads too quickly in between levels. Like, I can't even check Twitter in between it loading. This is
Well,
the
that's
worst.
what you guys sound like.
I mean,
Can't go on the internet anymore. It loads too slow.
yeah, well, I fucking.
That's what it sounds like when you're
If
talking
my,
about
if my
these frames
Wi-Fi
per
takes
second.
like 2 to 3 seconds too long, then I switch it to 5G, because that's what I got here.
Oh, that's what he's got. 5G.
But no, Forza Horizon, I did a re-review for that one because I felt like I'd put enough time in. I just wanted to give it a heads up. So I posted a re-review for that one where I gave it I upped my score to a 9.5. My original score was actually a 9. So I just tacked on an extra 5 points because of the visual fixes. Still a couple of minor issues obviously stand, but so that is definitely a game that you should be playing because it is on Game Pass, which of course is a big part of the Xbox ecosystem. And then, all right, so three launch games ish. Like they're not Xbox exclusive, but nonetheless. Let's start with Bright Memory. So Bright Memory, I actually played this on PC earlier in the year when they announced Bright Memory Infinite. If you don't remember what Bright Memory Infinite was, it was the first game that was shown off during the third-party Xbox event. It was the one that looked absolutely bonkers. There was someone with a samurai sword running on walls. There was fucking DeLorean. There was samurai dudes. Like, they were shooting. It was absolutely nonsense. It's made by one person, and everyone was like, what the fuck, I want this. Anyway, that game's called Bright Memory.
This is that game. Right, okay.
Yes. So that game's called Bright Memory Infinite, and it's basically the full version of Bright Memory, because Bright Memory is a 1 hour, no, it's like half an hour to 45 minutes. It costs like $15, I think, something like that. Anyway, if you buy it on PC, apparently you're going to get the full upgrade to the next one, and the same is apparently, I think, for Xbox. If you buy this version. Anyway, I don't think this is something that people should be picking up on their Series X's for several reasons. I just, like, as a game, it's basically a tech demo.
It looked like a tech demo when it was on the showcase of the preview event. I think it was like one of the first things that were shown on it, and we were just like,
the first one, yeah.
Is this just a tech demo for what's cool? Or
well, that's going to be a fully fledged game to some degree. The Infinite version. This one I'm talking about is really a tech demo, but to a degree, it's also just this because it is a solo developer, and the fact that one person made this game, which is quite good looking, it has a mixture of different mechanics and guns, and it is literally someone just going, here's all the things I like in video games, and then combining them all into one mishmash of
I like
items.
samurais. I like running up walls. I like army soldiers. Let's do it all together.
My biggest problem, apart from the fact that it is just a mishmash of ideas and there's nothing, the story makes absolutely no sense and whatever else. It's kind of fun to play for half an hour. It is literally the most PC rushed port straight to Xbox I've seen, to the degree that on the main menu, it literally has a settings page with all of the PC options that you would have if you was playing on PC. And it's really fucking weird. Like, and there's no reason to, of course, adjust any of this down because you're on a console and everything should, like PC, there's so many different varying options for people having different graphics cards. So it makes sense to have heaps of different options so people can fine-tune their games. On consoles, what makes sense at the moment is to have a couple different options, performance, visual. This makes sense to me. It doesn't really make sense to have all these things. The one option that I ended up turning on was actually VSync because I was getting some terrible screen tearing. So I went into settings. I was like, well, can I turn VSync on? And yes. And then that sort of fixed that problem. But then I'm like, well, why wasn't the port tested, discovered that there's screen tearing, and then they just port the version where screen tearing is automatically on because you don't need any of these other settings. It's kind of weird and just screams like, rush, get this on Xbox as well because Bright Memory Infinite's also coming to Xbox, so we want people to try this out. But I mean, you're better off kind of just watching. I feel someone play for it for half an hour than actually playing it. But yeah, it's only like $10, $15 if you really want to try it out. Alright, so the other launch game that I play, and straight away let me put this fact out here. Not often I say this. I did not finish this game before reviewing it. So
what? This is the fucking what? Reviewing things before you finished it? That's outrageous. Like that is.
It's a crazy.
That's flat out no.
It's
did you put in your review?
I did note in my review that I did not finish the game. Yeah,
you know what? You're a class act. You're a class act.
You're ethically okay then.
You're ethically great. Good job.
So I wrote. I'm not usually one not to complete a game before dropping a review, but I didn't see the Falconeer through to its finale. I played for 6 hours, and from what I understand, the game is around 10 to 12 hours. Because I did a quick Google and was like, saw what everyone else is saying. So I felt like I played like half, and this isn't vibing for me for a lot of reasons. And if I'm going to continue playing for like another 6 potentially hours, I'm probably going to end up hating the game more. So I was like, fuck it. This is one of those times where I feel like I have played enough. And especially because the game is one of the reasons I wasn't vibing is it was super repetitive. Like every mission was basically the same. So I felt like I had this one of those times where I could.
But maybe the next one was going to be different.
Yeah, I'm sure. No. So the game, in case anyone was actually, the game is set like in this fictional world. What's it called? I've got it here somewhere. I can't remember what it's called. Oh, the Great Ursi, right? So it's like a land mass or world primarily made up of water, and it's a combination between like Game of Thrones and like Waterworld in its plot because it is these different factions kind of in these land masses around the different world. And they're kind of either warring with one another or having like political garble with one another. Absolute nonsense. Boring me. I could not care less. It was just a lot of bullshit people fucking talking. I was like, no, this story's not working for me. Let's hope the gameplay is. The gameplay is you ride around on the back of, as the title probably gave away, you ride around on the back of a falcon, or at least a very big falcon, and the game is basically like a old school dogfighting flight sort of game. So you dip and dive with one analog stick, and you can only shoot directly in front of you. So like where you're aiming is where you're shooting. So you can't like fly over something and like use the other stick to aim. You're always sort of having to line up your path so you can shoot and then like do a swing back, like old school dogfighting type games. And you're either fighting other things in the air, which can range from other Falconeers, enemy Falconeers, airships. There's like manta rays that people ride. It's a kind of weird and wacky fancy world. The world itself is kind of fun. I just found the story garble, but the setting and everything is cool. It wasn't coming together for me. But the gameplay, every mission is basically either A, go to spot, kill a bunch of people, return back to base. B, go to spot, save someone, kill a bunch of people, go back to their home. C, go to a spot, help protect someone in a boat who's traveling through the world, and periodically, of course, have to stop and fight people. Inevitably, drop them off back at base, and then so on and so repeat. That's all what was happening. And then I was also getting super frustrated.
Sounds like 50% of video games.
Hey?
Sounds like 50% of video games.
No, well, I mean, I feel like I play.
Fight some people.
I feel like I play enough video games to say when something's feeling repetitive and or not feeling repetitive. I feel like I review enough to have a a feel on what is and what isn't repetitive. But then you've got the combat itself just wasn't doing it for me either. And I think it basically came down to the fact that to keep your boost up or to keep your flying up, you constantly have to like dive the Falcon at the water, which builds up a boost meter, and then you have to like pull up, and that uses energy. It doesn't matter if you're pulling up using boost or not. Everything uses energy. So like performing a barrel roll uses energy. Going up, energy. Blah, blah, blah. You also run out of bullets. So if you're in a dogfight and you run out of bullets, you then have to literally find a storm around you somewhere and then go towards that storm, and the storm will recharge your canisters of bullets. So in the midst of a fight, I kept constantly getting annoyed because it seemed that the enemies do not follow under the same restrictions as you. Like, they were constantly on my ass. They were never having to like dip and dive to build up boost. They were never running out of ammo to have to go do things. Like, here I am weighted down by what felt like ridiculous amounts of like.
You had you felt like you had like a defective bird.
Yeah, like it's just like you have all these resource managements that you've got to do, and it felt like everyone else was just happy to go do whatever they want. I just didn't think it all came together quite well. The game is the one positive I'll give the game. Very pretty, has a great photo mode, and I just don't think it just could not click for me. I think there's definitely gonna be an audience for this, because like if you can get into that combat, or maybe the story clicks for you and you enjoy these warring factions or whatever, like there's definitely a cool game here. It wasn't working for me at all. So yeah, I had to dive off that one. I couldn't see it through. I'm sorry to say. But again, if I ever not finish things, which is very fucking rare, I feel, and will continue to be very rare.
Yeah, that's fair.
I will make sure to let you know if that is the case. Yes, and the last thing I played, of course, was Tetris Effect Connected. And as I said, this is probably the thing I played the most on my Series X, this is a weird launch lineup, Series X launch lineup, but Tetris Effect, in case you didn't know, it originally came out on PlayStation, came out for PSVR. That's where I played it primarily. You can also just play it on PlayStation normally. It is classic Tetris to a degree. It's got like a mechanic where you can pause time and like build up heaps of Tetrises in a row. And the other great thing about the game is it was built around super psychedelic, fantastic soundtrack. It's going through that game's campaign in VR was like a religious experience. Playing it again, not in VR, was like nearly as good. Like, I just think overall that game, this is my favorite Tetris game. I think I can think if I was doing my personal top 10 games of the generation, I think personally I would have Tetris Effect on there. Like, playing it again just kind of solidified how much I love this game. The new thing for this game on this Xbox release is it's called Tetris Effect Connected, because they've added a bunch of multiplayer modes. The sort of boring ones is it's like, hey, normal versus mode, normal, like you versus another person, or like you're racing to be a scorer or whatever. But the mode that's the coolest is one where you're playing a co-op with two other people versus a boss. And it carries on the same theme that the game's campaign has, which is all about like unison and like coming together and like being better people, whatever. Which feels weird to say about Tetris, but if you play through that game's campaign, you feel those songs, you feel the background animations and all these sorts of things. I feel like you will fall in love with that game's soundtrack and everything pretty quickly.
Look, I think it's surprising because I'm really excited to actually play Tetris Effect. It's not one of the games that I've had in mind when it comes to picking up my Xbox, but I've never had a chance to play it. Like, it was one of those games, especially on PlayStation, that was VR, and if I didn't pick it up if I didn't have VR, I wasn't even going to think about picking up any other way. But now that it's come over to Xbox with the new Xbox Series X, and it being tailored for this game, I'm excited to play it again. Like, I'm well, not again, but excited to play it for the first time. And it is a nice jewel or small kind of bonus or thing to what is the kind of mediocre lineup that is the Xbox Series X launch.
Yeah, I mean, I'm biased a little bit because I love this game, but I'd be saying this is one of my favorite launch games. Yeah, the connected mode. you, two other people versus a boss. You're playing in separate, like, whatever you call Tetris fields, whatever the fuck. I'm sure there's official
Wells,
name.
apparently.
What? Wells?
They're wells.
Well, there you go. See, you learn something every day. You're playing in 3 separate wells, and if one person gets knocked out, there are actually ways to revive the other person to help them. But the coolest thing is, like, it hits the high points of different songs from the Tetris Effect soundtrack. And in these moments where you, like, it would sort of pick up the pace or whatever, it actually connects all 3 of you into one giant well. And that means that if someone else was over, like if the person on the far left side of the screen, for example, was getting very close to being fucked, like they were nearly reaching the top, it means that the both other 2 players can now start helping them, like, build them back down. So it feels really great to play because, yeah, it just carries on that theme that I think the game has about, like, working together as human beings to sort of defeat the odds and all these sorts of things. So it's a great amount. Like, it doesn't change the game overall. The core Tetris Effect stuff is there if you've played it already. I don't think Connected is, like, pushes it over the level. Like, as far as I'm concerned, the game was a 10 before. So it's just like, it's a 10.
It's still a 10.
You know, like,
yeah.
It's nice to have
not,
multiplayer.
it hasn't gotten worse. They haven't somehow, by removing the VR experience, they haven't ruined the game at its core, ruined the experience itself.
No, yeah, I definitely think it's just worth playing. Like, and I wouldn't say I was, like, super in love with Tetris before this. Like, I've played several versions of Tetris. Tetris is fine. I've had my times on Game Boy or whatever, but something about Tetris Effect definitely just clicked for me for whatever reason. So I fell in love with it. All right, so they're the games I've played, which I think obviously you can kind of look at all that and say, was that an exciting couple of days with your primarily Series X stuff? To which I'll say, it's what I expected. It's what I feel like anyone buying a Series X knew they were going to play.
a super small point about it, but I still think it's relevant for the console launch. How many of those games did you actually have to buy, or would somebody have to buy other than having Xbox Game Pass?
Out of all those, you would have had to have brought the Falconeer and Bright Memory. Yeah, the rest of game. Oh,
cool.
No, the rest of Game Pass. Yeah,
the rest of Game Pass. So
cool.
You still would.
How many of those could you have played on your Xbox Series X? On your Xbox One? Yes.
But that is. But actually,
X.
that isn't. But the point about the Xbox console is that you could play them on your Xbox Series One.
So,
you could play Spider-Man Miles Morales on the PS4, but it's absolutely dog shit by all regards.
So I'll bring up this point now because I'm stealing this. I saw someone say this, and I've seen several other people say it since. So I don't feel bad. I don't remember the source, but this is my favorite quote I've seen someone describe the Series X to, which makes the most sense. It is an iPhone upgrade. And I mean that in, like, as someone who owns an iPhone
I
and
agree
upgrades every
completely.
year, I think that is the most apt way to describe what the Series X is. It is the easiest, not to say the PlayStation was hard to, like, set up, but it is the most easiest to upgrade to. Like, you literally, like, if you want to upgrade from your last Xbox console, it literally is like, hey, we've already saved your profiles, your themes, your save files. Shit, like, you turn that thing in, you're up and running in, like, literally seconds. Not to say, once again, not to say PlayStation's harder, but it feels super comfortable to come into. The UI is a slightly different UI than what you have on the Xbox One. It is literally Xbox going, all right, we'll play around with a couple things, but otherwise it is the same thing, love it or hate it. What it is a substantially more powerful machine. And it is substantially more powerful. All these games we're talking about where Ash is like, you can play these on last-gen consoles. Several of those, including, what the fuck is it called? Outer Worlds. I did not play on, I tried to play on Xbox and I didn't like it, so I went to PC. If I had played it on if I had a One X or a Series X, I would have played it there because it looks fine. So, like, what the fuck am I? Ori, right? So Ori came out and had a bunch of issues at launch, ended up having to get patched. Apparently, there was a lot to do with frame rate and whatever else. Once again, runs like buttery smooth. Forza Horizon. Is it a bad game on last generation stuff? No, I really liked it in last generation. Is it so much better now at 60 locked 4K that if you try it and see it running on that, would you ever go back? No, you want to fucking play it in 4K 60, especially once you've experienced 4K 60. You could never go back to fucking 1440p to 1080. Like, you'd be like, get the fuck out of here. So, in a lot of ways, the pluses and negatives are it is a substantially more powerful machine that has a way smoother running UI that doesn't like every time on my Series S, 1S, I would like slide between different menus and sometimes it would like freeze for like a second or hiccup. I mean, PlayStation had the same things. We were used to buggy UIs and like slowdowns in combination of both machine power, networking capabilities that we just got used to it. And now after trying both machines, I'm like, I can never go back. So, but the one negative of comparing it to an iPhone and the Xbox is it does get the big pluses that it's smooth, comfortable, way upgraded machine, but also the big negative of that is it doesn't feel
it doesn't do enough.
Exciting.
Like it does
not have the
feel
PlayStation wow
different.
factor of a next gen launch console. And I mean, if you're an Xbox person, like if all you have is an Xbox console, you don't care about any other consoles, you're going to fuck about PlayStation, you're going to fuck about Nintendo, and you just want a more powerful machine to keep playing all the games you love because you're an Xbox person, this console is going to rock your fucking world because you'll be like, great, everything I already play daily now runs so much better. The whole console runs better.
When you look at last generation for Xbox, the hardware in the console itself wasn't the problem. Like, it just wasn't the problem. Like, in general, like, a lot of things about the console is better than the PS4 in a lot of ways. It's just the lineup was shit on the Xbox One. Like, they completely...
another big problem with
the
this.
lineup and the initial messaging.
Which is the initial problem for this, but...
No Halo is a major...
Yeah, no Halo has been a massive fucking sting for this console going out. But we also know now, we also are very aware how much effort Xbox and Microsoft are putting into rebuilding that lineup. So yes, it's kind of shot it in the foot for the launch, and the launch is very much a launch in terms of they haven't been able to get all their ducks in a line to launch. They haven't been able to be like, here's a bunch of new stuff to play at launch. They haven't been able to do that. They've done what they can with the situation. But at the same time, I don't think it is the case of if you wanted it, cool, you can upgrade to it now. But also, if you don't have it, I don't feel like you should feel the need, like, unless you really want to play games on it.
No.
You shouldn't feel the need to rush out and get it until their launch titles come out. Because as we had the discussion, did we have it on Platinum or Arcade Couch when I said about about how console review scores is fucking dumb?
I think that was on last week's Arcade Couch.
I think it was probably everything.
Well, it was, yeah, okay, probably everything. But console review scores are dumb. And that is because I think we don't know how these consoles play out for another 6 to 12 months until we start seeing Xbox bring out some titles.
Yeah.
You can, as PlayStation fanboys like Ashley sat in his freaking mountain of gold right here, you can stick your flag in the dirt and promptly, and I will support you in it and say, PlayStation shit all over Xbox in terms of the launch lineup. 100%. I 100% agree with you.
I come on here as someone who's brought both consoles, so I feel like I'm allowed to.
Yes.
Let me reiterate that again. Not to like, this isn't meant to be like, oh, we didn't get sent consoles. I didn't get sent consoles. I paid for both. So my opinions are literally from someone who spent over nearly $2,000 on fucking consoles, right?
Yes, yeah.
So I wouldn't be spending nearly $800, whatever it was, $750, $700, whatever the Xbox cost. I wouldn't be spending $700 just to come be a PlayStation fanboy and be like, look, I spent $700. I can say it sucks.
Exactly.
Like if it was really
100%.
good and had a great launch lineup, I'd happily come on here and say it's great.
Exactly.
PS5's great too.
Exactly.
Woo! But there are problems.
But right now, are you saying, yeah, that was a good investment?
I'll put it this way. I knew it was never going to be a good investment. Like, let me put it this way. If I did not do Explosion Network, I would not have brought an Xbox on launch day. And that's because I'm a PlayStation player, right? There would be absolutely no reason for me, unless I needed to cover it, like, on Explosion Network, there would be absolutely no reason as me, as a PlayStation player, to pick up an Xbox on launch day. Would I have picked one up down the line? I would assume so in this world, but I would not have picked one up at launch. The other thing I'd say that's, there are positives. Like, as I'm saying, the machine's powerful, whatever. It just doesn't have a new exciting feel. But at the similar thing is, I'd say, if for PlayStation people, like, you can kind of make the argument that both consoles don't need to be brought by for either means. Like Miles Morales looks great, whatever. Apparently there's a few bugs on PS4 version, a few bugs, frame rate issues or whatever, but apparently it runs fine. Like people, like there was PS4 reviews out from like people we know, like Well Played, like Kieran reviewed it over there. He gave it an 8. Said it had some bugs, like frame rate issues. He still gave it an 8. So the game's there. Sackboy on PS4, apparently it's good. Not as good as a PS5, but it's there. So, like, the only key PlayStation 5 game, if you want to compare, like, games to games, is actually Demon's Souls. Like,
yep, very much so.
Otherwise, a lot of the other games are, like, when you're comparing Miles Morales, you can put Miles in the same category, technically, as, like, Forza Horizon. You know, to a degree. It's like, it runs better. It's available on the old console.
The other point is in terms of it has just gone out of my mind, so I don't even worry about that.
Honestly, hold on, I don't want to get too lost. I'll save my points. So let me tie it in this. Honestly, after like since Platinum Exposure, I've played more PS5 games, right? Since we recorded that. So now I've played what I played now. So I've played Sackboy, Demon's Souls, Miles Morales, and Astro's Playroom. Out of all of those, Astro's Playroom, all of my Xbox games, Astro's Playroom is still the most next-gen experience I have had out of all games. And the reason why is because of this thing, the DualSense controller, right? This is the Xbox Series X controller, right? Now,
it's exactly the same controller.
Yeah, well, let me break down the Series X controller. So I've had a Xbox One controller, I've got an Elite controller, I've now got a Series XS controller, right? There are a couple upgrades. It has a more grippy back, whatever you want to call the back, right? Grippy more back. Cool. That's nice. It's texturizing. That is nice that that's added. The triggers are quieter. I actually love that because I thought Xbox's triggers were way too fucking loud, in my opinion.
Loud.
The D-pad is more clicky, but also it is a much nicer D-pad. So you can hear that. A lot more clicky, much nicer. I think on a D-pad, you actually like clicky, in my opinion. It's just kind of D-paddy. Of course, it has a share button now. It's an okay share button. I think PlayStation still wins on both their share button functionality and just the way it operates in the system, because Xbox's share functions still are just very weird where, like with PlayStation, you just have like hold to save this way or like double tap to press this. Like there's just a lot more control of it, whereas this is
options,
like you press it, it saves, but you can't set it to save the last hour. You have to set it to save like very weird periods. Nonetheless, it has a share button now. That's a nice upgrade. But that, in a nutshell, is the differences between the last controller and the new controller.
100%. It is. Yeah, no, it is. Microsoft is playing. Look, I just think as an industry or as a community, it's just the fact of launches now are going to stop becoming a kind of definitive book kind of holder or book, whatever they're called, separator. But they're just going to be softer launches, that are softer transitions over to the new consoles. Ashley's pulling faces.
Are they?
Yeah.
I guess we won't know till the end of this launch period whether if PlayStation blows Xbox out of the water, they'll go, we need to go generations every single time.
But I don't think PlayStation's gone generational, to be perfectly honest with you. With what Dylan has just gone through and said, does that sound like PlayStation's gone generational?
No, but the PlayStation 5 is completely different to the PlayStation 4.
No, it's not. I wouldn't say it's completely different. Not at all.
Not completely, but it's vastly different. Enough that
what is vastly different about it? If you took away the controller, what is vastly different about the PlayStation?
UI. for a start,
but that's because the PlayStation's 4 UI is garbage, though.
What? Xbox is garbage.
Xbox has a great UI.
No.
Yes.
It's trash.
Yes. No, it's not.
No.
It was trash.
It's not.
It was the slowest
I don't need all these
thing.
boxes all over the place.
But you can customize that and remove the boxes if you don't want the boxes.
I think if you use Xbox more, you got used to it and you liked it. I think as someone who picked up one a couple of years into the life cycle and never had that was my first Xbox console. I even years after using it, of course I didn't use it that often, but even years after using it, and I'd still turn it on to watch a fucking Blu-ray and be like, what the fuck? Just play the fucking Blu-ray, dude.
What else has there been, Ashley, that makes it generational, though, other than UI and a controller? And I am
Yeah,
minimizing the controller right now. The controller is a huge deal. I'm just minimizing
deal,
it for the
yeah.
sake of.
I think
For
you
the sake
can't
of this
answer this
conversation.
question because everyone's going to freak out. They're still waiting for Horizon Forbidden West to still be announced for PS4 as well, which may or may not happen. We know Ratchet and Clank's officially a PS5 game. I think if you want to delve into like, well, who's going to do the most weird things over places, I think we have to wait at least
I think
a year.
clearly the PS5 has righted so many wrongs with the PS4.
So is
Even
the
if
Xbox
it's just the Wi-Fi
to a
card.
degree.
So is the Xbox. Like,
Let's talk. So
No,
before we go down the road, I was comparing controllers, right? And my point was Xbox controller, bunch of like it slightly improves the Xbox controller. If you already love the Xbox controller, this is just about an Xbox controller. I played with that the entire time over those couple of days, solely so I could get my feel for it. Obviously, I am Elite 2. I'm now going to just use my Elite 2 now that I've put in my time with that controller. 'Cause the Elite
as
2
you
share
would
something.
use a $200 controller. Oh,
yeah,
yes.
it's a lot better, obviously, because it is a $200-something controller. So that makes perfect sense. All right, so DualSense, though. DualSense, as we talked about on Platinum Explosion, and I will still a couple days later, I'm going to put this out here and say this right now. What's today's date recording? It's 15th of 11th, right? I'm putting this out here right now. I think, as we continue going through this generation, that the DualSense could end up becoming not only mine, but a lot of people's favorite controller ever. Because so far, after all my time with both consoles, as I just said, the most next-gen experience was the fucking Pac-In Astros game, because that uses the controller the best of any game I've seen. And it just showed me the signs of if games are developed correctly for the DualSense, which they may not all be in the first year because there's going to be a lot of third parties getting used to it, but at least Sony first parties, you would presume, are going to use it correctly. They're going to be fucking like apparently COD works, and if I could have played that this afternoon,
So I was going to say,
I would've
apparently COD, the triggers feel different for every
yeah,
gun.
when if your bullets run out, so I would love to. Anyway, that would just back up my whole point, which is the DualSense. It's not the consoles, in my opinion, that are actually fighting this war, if you want to call it like the battle for this generation. In my mind, so far, has weirdly fallen to the controllers. Because if you took out the DualSense and said that the PS5 came with a DualShock 5 that was it had like a roughed back and it had a slightly better D-pad, like similar features to the Xbox, then I would be on here saying, yeah, like Miles Morales looks better, ray tracing's good, like I don't think there's any need to rush to buy both consoles. Like if you take Astro's Playroom out of the picture, in my opinion, then I would be saying that both consoles do a nice job of upgrading both machines. Everything runs at 4K 60 now. It's very pretty. I'm glad we have this upgrade because I was getting sick of the last generation of consoles. But I would be on here telling you, I think if you take the DualSense out of the picture, I would be on here saying that both consoles are just nice, comfy, iPhone level upgrades. The one thing that makes the PlayStation stand out as a truly next-gen thing, in my opinion, is the fucking controller. And that's what they have over Xbox.
I completely agree. So I'm 100% behind that.
Which, and that's why everyone should go play Astro's Playroom, because, and I know I'm just going to say the exact same thing I said on Platinum Explosion, which is that for months and months, ever since they announced the PlayStation 5 and the DualSense, they kept telling us you had to listen to Mark Cerny, you had to listen to Jeff Keighley, you had to listen to everyone pick up this fucking controller and YouTube videos the last couple of months and go, hey everyone, did you know if you use the DualSense that you hold the triggers, there'll be tension, and if you feel the back, it'll make you feel like you're fucking rolling through mud? And I know myself, like many others, probably watched and heard those videos and went, does it though? Like I was very doubtful. And I think a lot of that came off the fact that the Joy-Cons in the Nintendo Switch had similar haptic feedback type features, and it was nice and cool at the start of when they released the Switch and they put out 1-2 switch and they did the whole, you can count the ice cubes, and that was a cool party trick. You could count the ice cubes. You could count the ice cubes because of the haptic feedback combined with the sounds in the Joy-Cons. That was a cool little party trick. And what did Nintendo continue to do with those features? Absolutely fuck all. You could use them slightly in Mario Odyssey. There were some cool things in that. But other than that, I can't think of any time that Nintendo actually utilized those features. And anyway, they're not as good as the DualSense controller. I think if PlayStation continues to develop and third-party developers take advantage of the features of the DualSense controller, I think it will be the crowning achievement of this generation, at least when it comes down to technology. Let me put an asterisk on that. Xbox could come out of the fucking gate and will hopefully come out of the gate over the next couple of years with the tens of millions of studios that they have been buying and start releasing some kick-ass games. And I look forward to playing their games. And maybe at the end of this generation, if you want to do Xbox versus PlayStation, maybe we'll be saying Xbox had the better first-party titles at the end of this generation. I still think from a technological standpoint at the moment, PlayStation isn't in the place where we could be like, Xbox wins the games, PlayStation wins the controller,
But
tech.
the asterisk then again is, and we know this from Xbox in general, Xbox could very much just release a new controller. They could take what PlayStation don't understand it and be like, cool, all right.
I would agree if that lined up with how Xbox treating the ecosystem, and the ecosystem is currently all controllers work. Xbox One controllers work on your Series X.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All those.
So what would stop them putting in? It probably wouldn't get as used widely by Xbox players, by Xbox developers even. But at the same time, what if the new Elite gets announced and it has these features on it? I think yes, you don't.
I'm not going to say no because, of course, anything is possible. I just don't think that fits the Xbox narrative that they're setting up at the moment. Because Xbox has been lining up all their plates, and their go for this generation is Game Pass. Kick-ass games on Game Pass. Everyone subscribes to Game Pass, either on PC or our box. We don't give a fuck where you play. Their whole Xbox's ecosystem and plan for this generation isn't actually the Series X. It's Game Pass. Like that is the generation. That's their plan. It's Game Pass.
Yeah, it's the console family.
So putting out a console that's an optional console, optional controller with haptic feedback features and all these sorts of things, that doesn't really line up with Xbox's plan of like that's a lot of time and effort.
Do you think they don't do an Elite controller?
I think they put out an Elite Series 3 maybe next year,
with a share button.
Next year, I would say, and it'll have slightly upgraded things. It'll have a share button on it. It'll maybe have some upgraded things, but I don't think it's I will put money down now and say that whatever the Elite Series 3 is, it will just be an upgraded, more changeable pads, better feeling back. It'll have a share button. It'll have all these cool things, but it will not be a controller that is complete. Because the thing about the Elite is, it's just a better Xbox One controller.
It's an upgraded version. It
doesn't have a bunch of features that you suddenly can't
get.
You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. Like it's a very nice controller, not a genre defining thing. Yeah, I feel like I've not to pat myself on the back, but I feel like I've hit the nail on the head with this exercise. Like I don't feel like like. Here's the thing. Obviously, I
did this conversation so good.
Well, I just feel like
I think you definitely. I don't think, like, honestly, I don't think your point of view or opinion is skewed or biased in any way.
No,
like,
that's what I'm trying to just clarify.
A fair and honest discussion to it, and you're open to what the future facts are. You aren't Ashley Hobley that's just like trying to slam dunk a ball right now.
I mean, to be honest, it's completely clear that they're playing two completely different games. So
yeah, they are. They're playing two completely different games. But ultimately, what it comes down to at the end of the day, whenever people talk about who won the console generation, if you want to play console wars, what do people talk about when we did our like games of generation stuff? We're never talking about like the boxes. We're talking about the games, right? So at the end of the day, if Xbox start releasing amazing games, they can still win the console war. You know, it doesn't matter if those games are on PC as well as the as the box. It doesn't matter if they're all on Game Pass. If they start releasing 10 out of 10 fucking bangers, which I hope they do, because I want to see. Like, I'm not out to see anyone lose.
Like, it'll be like we already look at Game Pass now and we go, Game Pass is fucking great value. Like, no matter what you say,
they just added EA Play.
In
case you didn't know, they just added EA Play. So I mean,
it gets even better. So that's the thing. We already have that. We already know now. What if they do start releasing PlayStation equivalent game IPs on it? Like, it's just gonna
be a banger. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. My thoughts and opinions are of launch period. Like, let's compare the consoles in launch period as someone who brought both consoles 100%. In launch fucking week. If you want to come back and have this sort of discussion,
we'll have this conversation in 12 months.
Yeah, then we can start comparing games and stuff then. But You know, at the moment, here's the other thing I'll say. If you want to get, because like I don't really like doing the fanboy discussions, but I think, of course, whenever a console's launch, they launch in the same week. It's hard not to go, which one should you spend your money on? I think one important thing that I thought as I was preparing my brain for this episode last night, I was laying in bed, right? Remember how every other console generation, people would always say, well, if you don't really, like, I think I remember when I was watching videos for PS4 versus Xbox One, a lot of people were saying, like, neither launch library is great, so buy the console where your friends play. Interesting thing about this gaming generation, it doesn't really matter where your friends play for a lot of the big titles, which I think is something that I don't think I've seen anyone bring up. You know, like, if you play Fortnite, it's crossplay. If you play Call of Duty, you want to play Call of Duty, Black Ops, Cold War, that game's crossplay. You know, like a lot of the big multiplayer titles are actually crossplay now. So the whole like, play where your friends play, and maybe that's still important to a degree because not all multiplayer games are crossplay. But it's just an interesting thing about this. Like, you don't actually need to buy in the box. In fact, you can play Call of Duty, Fortnite, Apex, a bunch of multiplayer games. You can play them on your PS4 and Xbox One with your friends who have bought PS5s and Xbox Series X's. So this console launch is actually a lot more user friendly. That if you're a friend of someone who and you missed out on getting a brand new console, I don't feel like you get suddenly like shoved in the corner and you can't play games with your friends. Like if they're playing a bunch of these multiplayer games, you can still actually play with them, which I think is important, and it's good that we have this crossplay stuff for everyone to enjoy. All right, so the other two things I was just going to quickly shout out is PlayStation reviews. I haven't wrote as many as Xbox. Hopefully we'll have some more up throughout the week, of course. You got to play the fucking games before you write about the reviews for them. It's most of the time, apart from the Falconeer.
Most of the time.
I mean, if you hate a game, please make sure to note you didn't finish it and put that in your review. So obviously, Astro's Playroom, I just talked out of its ass. I gave that an 8.5. You can read my review on the website if you'd like.
What made you lower the score on that one? What was the?
I don't start at 10. So.
Well, okay, sorry, not by lower the score, but what made you stop at 8.5?
I think the game starts getting good and then it ends because it's a free game. Like,
okay,
and there's just like it's a fun, like it's really great and whatever. But yeah, it's like to give it a 10, I would say it would need just need a little bit more. It needed to be a game that you probably paid money for. You know, like
okay, fair enough.
Like you need another hour.
Yeah.
Hour and a half.
Yeah. And I put that at the bottom. Like I said, Nicholas Doucette, the producer and director for both Astrobot Rescue Mission and Astronaut's Playroom, was made the head of Japan studio earlier this year. He's delivered 2 fantastic platformers that gave me a Nintendo quality experience outside of their devices. It's time for Sony to let him and the team make a full-scale Astro game for PS5. And that's what I want. That's what we all want. That's because he's headed up. He directed both these games. He recently got made head of Sony Japan. He's a fucking, if you can tell by a name, you know, French developer, like gone over there, kind of leading his team. It's a crazy story. Anyway, everyone should play Astro's Playroom. And then the other PlayStation related game was also an 8.5, which I gave to talking about Bugsnax, which I reviewed on PS4. I still haven't had time to boot up and try it on PS5. But I would presume my score wouldn't change anyway. My one issue with the PS4 version primarily was load screens were like a little bit too long. Not end of the world too long, but noticeably long. And I would presume playing on PS5 would shorten those comparatively. But Bugsnax, in case of course, it's been a meme for quite some time. The game is more than a meme. It's basically a puzzle game. Like that's the best way to describe
I would put it almost in the same vein as like The Witness or
not as hard as The Witness.
Not as hardcore, sorry.
No.
Not as hardcore in the terms of like there is the puzzles are far easier. There is more character to it. There's more kind of obvious storytelling and more layered storytelling in terms of character wise. But
yeah.
I still think it's a really good and solid game. It's just
there's like 8. I think there's like 8 areas in the game. Basically, each time you enter one, there's either 1 or 2 grumbles, which are these like grumplings or whatever they're called. Basically, the characters who live on the island, and each one is like, oh, you're trying to get them to return to town. To get them to return to town, they usually task you with several things, which involve catching Bugsnax, which of course, if you've watched the trailer, are half bug, half snack creatures crawling around the island, and then that's where the puzzle elements come in because, of course, you have to use variation of traps and other items to figure out how to capture the different kinds of Bugsnax throughout the island. I think the gameplay is super fun. The thing that I loved most about the game was the characters by the end of it. Like, I'd really fallen for a lot of the characters and enjoyed hearing their stories. Like, doing, especially if you do all the side missions, you really get to know a lot of these characters, and that became the best part of the game. I think, Ash, did you manage to play more of this before the PS5 came out, or like how far did you get? Like, what's your thoughts? Because I don't think
I only got like an hour into it. Just the basic tutorial and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm definitely keen to jump into it probably this week.
You're just gonna restart on PlayStation now?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
PlayStation Plus.
PlayStation Plus, download it now, even if you don't have a PS5,
You got PS4.
Just grab it.
Oh, no.
I mean, you can buy it on PS4, but you can add it to your library before you buy a PS5. You're going to buy a PS5.
That's a good tip, actually. Like, if you don't have one, just go to the web browser and just make sure to redeem it. Buy it that way, I guess. Like, I don't know if you can redeem PS4.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah. I'd assume you can't redeem via PS4. I don't know. Anyway, that's Bugsnax. I think it's really good. Not just a meme. I think that's anything. I think we've fucking covered it. Anyone else got any last thoughts on this whole console launch week, Kieran?
No, I think it's really solid. I will say, even though I've been very heavily kind of trying to run defense for Xbox in this episode, I think the PlayStation launch lineup's variety is excellent. Like, it is so inclusive for all kinds of players. That I think, it covers kind of a lot of bases. I think it'd be even better. I think there's some games that have, like, I think Sackboy launching without online multiplayer is like hella weird, considering
apparently
like,
that's a COVID related, we just couldn't get it done.
Okay, because the fact that there's missions there's like levels in the game you can't play without a second person.
I mean, you can do it local.
You could just plug in a second controller if you wanted to. But
if you have friends or family that live with you, you are able to.
But do I want to put up with them? I don't know about that. Maybe I could teach a dog how to play. That'd be good.
Maybe.
Okay, but I still think it's.
You can press.
So you can plug in a DualShock to play by yourself.
I mean,
I could, but I'd have to control both characters, and that'd be a pain in the butt. And what if it's an auto-scroller level? Like, there's a whole lot of first-world problems there,
that's
actually.
Right. I'll add multiplayer eventually, and we'll play it. It's fine.
But yeah, it'll be fine. It's one of those games. But I think, it's I think launch lineup is very different for the first time in years, but at the same time, I think it's very good.
Ash, did you have any launch week?
Well, I would say on the plus for Xbox side, they haven't seemed to had as many issues as the PlayStation side has had. There's been problems with the rest mode. Several games have been bricking consoles. Apparently, Dylan, you had to reformat your console. You just said,
yeah. All right, yeah. I nearly got lost and didn't cover this. So yeah, let's go over this quickly. One at the moment, in case you're listening to this, you have a PS5. One issue seems to be related to rest mode, and from all accounts, primarily related to Spider-Man. And also external hard drives plugged in via USB. All the accounts I could see in any of the reports were people putting their PlayStations into rest mode. It seems to be Marvel Spider-Man Remastered causing the issues, and Insomniac have responded and said they're looking into it. So I would say don't play Marvel Spider-Man and put it into rest mode at the moment. And then the other thing is some people with external hard drives have had issues where they've put into it says they've been playing a game on their external hard drive, then put it into rest mode and then come out of it like a PS4 game. And then it seems to have caused some issue where they've had to just fully restart the console. Sometimes they've had to rebuild the database or whatever. I used to have to rebuild my fucking database on my PS4 once a week, I swear.
The external hard drive issue would be the equivalent issue to what's going on with controllers not charging during rest mode at all, because there seems to be some funky kind of power issues going on with the USB ports on the console.
I would agree with that.
Has PlayStation said anything about this stuff yet, or kind of acknowledged it?
I don't think so.
I would think that. I guess
because if it's only Spider-Man, I think the assumption is
it doesn't seem to be owned. But I guess for the USB port issue, I don't think that's just Spider-Man.
That the USB issue is definitely not a major issue, but definitely something that they should be fixing. In my opinion, if like a launch week, I expected both consoles to have issues. Like, I think you buy into any new tech, there's always like going to be some level of woes, and I just kind of expect that. I'm kind of used to it. I think if this is the most, like, it's not Red Ring of Death level type shit.
Oh no, it's not that bad. Like, it is like there is with like my PlayStation. Every now and then I've had to like, even though I haven't touched Spider-Man Remastered or anything yet. I haven't even loaded that game yet. But when I first go like open it from rest mode, games just won't open until I restart it again. Like, it'll just say cannot start game or app, and then I'll have to like force restart the whole thing, and then it'll work.
Yes.
But yeah, it's just I would like a little bit more. Like, I'd like a little bit more communication from PlayStation, just to say, hey guys, we're aware, we're working on it. Don't stress too much. Like,
I would say this: if you're having issues, obviously just like maybe turn off the rest mode. Don't use rest mode anymore until there's a fix. I'm continuing to use rest mode because I think it's super fucking handy. And if I have problems and it bricks my console, I'll be annoyed. But at the same time, that's fucking Sony's fault, and they should fix it and send me a fucking PlayStation. You know, like, why should I have to stop? I know, but you know what I mean. Like, why should I have to stop using some of the key features of these consoles?
My only worry would be the case of right now.
We don't have any PlayStations to give you.
There's no PlayStations to give out if you fucked a PlayStation.
I'll find one.
Like, I'll that's the thing. That's why I don't want to risk the console. And I'm just like, I won't use rest mode for a while because I'm like, I'd rather have a console that takes like
to be fair, I think this is a rare I think whenever there's these issues,
I think these are fixable.
Yeah, but I would say also whenever there's these issues, you hear like 20 people say it, and it suddenly sounds like 1,000 voices. You know what I mean? Like, because you see a bunch of news stories report on like a few people saying it, all of a sudden it sounds like there's hundreds of thousands of these.
Though, there's enough that I feel like. Look, you know what? My biggest thing is I wish PlayStation would just come out and be like, "Hey, we're fixing."
I don't know if they've ever replied to anyone on like Twitter.
It's just a communication thing, honestly. It's like, because even when I was like Googling like the other day about it, I couldn't find any like forum posts or anything. Like, I couldn't find anything. Like, all I want is that's. I don't care that it's happening. Sure, it happens. It's a launch bug. Sure, if PlayStation come out and say, "Hey, we don't know what this is going on with this," because obviously none of our nobody who has been reviewing the console has had these issues yet that we know of, so we're working on to find out what's going on. That's all I need, is just that communication.
I guess we can give them that it's the weekend and no one's in the answer these things. I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to continue to use it because it's like, it is one of my favorite features of both consoles, just being able to, like, I was playing Demon Souls right before recording this, and I just put it into rest mode, and it'll take 2 seconds to turn on, then I'm back and I'm playing the game. Like, these are the features that this new console generation brings, is being able to just like instant start games or whatever. So I want to be able to use these features because they're part of the thing. Like, and I'm just not going to touch Spider-Man Remastered, whatever. As I said before recording, I ordered an external SSD. If it turned up tomorrow, I may not use it. Although I think Kieran's spot on the money. I think the issue is that people are playing PS4 games on their external SSDs or external hard drives, let me say, plugged into that front USB port that is not getting powered correctly, and that is obviously a bug that they need to address.
I think there's problems with the back.
I don't think you can plug them into the front.
The front's the front can. Yeah, the front's powered and everything. Yeah. So there's no reason you couldn't do it. And in most external hard drives
like there was some reason the PlayStation.
But even if you're plugging into the back one, say like
I still think the back ones are having similar issues. I think like some people are reporting, like some people like the fix is to stop using the front port and start using the back port, and I think other people have been like, I think back port's still doing the same thing. Where if in case people don't know about the controllers, it's that once you go into rest mode, for some reason it only charges your controller. It like charges it for maybe like 5-10 minutes and then just shuts power off. And even if your settings are changed.
I had my controller plugged in all day and it didn't hold a charge. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. I've got it charging now, but
but that's the thing, because that's where it starts. Where when I first rest mode, I like check it. I plugged it in, checked it. Yep, orange light. I come back to it the next morning. It's like, nah, I didn't charge at all, bro.
Mine I plugged in overnight. It didn't charge at all that first night, Thursday night. The next day, I turned on my console and turned off the setting to put it in standby mode so it would not go off. and I just left it on charging, and it properly charged. The fix was going into settings, changing it so power was left to USBs always.
I thought that was my
and
fix, and then it kept doing it for me.
So
now I'm using the back USB port, and it seems to be fine.
Either way, I think there's obviously some weird bug in the system with PS5s that are obviously it's not letting power go to the USBs appropriately or whatever, and I think that plays into the whole hard drive area where people are playing PS4 games off the thing. The one slot people seem to be having zero issues with is actually just the USB-C slot. That one seems to be perfectly fine. It seems to just be the USB 3.1 slots, whatever, like back, front, whatever, those 3 slots, the 2 in the back, 1 in the front. All of those seem to be the ones that are having weird power issues, but the USB-C slot seems to be working fine. So if you've got a USB-C, the USB-C cable, then you can
use it.
It'll charge your controller super fucking fast also.
Good idea.
They're like $30 at Officeworks if you want to buy one. And I would suggest
it's probably good to pick one up anyway.
Yeah, because I've just been charging my controllers over here near my desk because I have a cable plugged in that charges my Oculus headset. That's a USB-C to USB-C like wall adapter thing. I've just been using that. Like fucking whatever. Charge it fine. So the Call of Duty thing. So I wrote up a news story for this while I was waiting for my controller to restart. Hopefully this bug is addressed and fixed soon. The bug is this. I redeemed a code for Call of Duty. Thank you. It was supported by Activision. Thank you. And then I was going to play some Call of Duty. I clicked download on the game because I assumed when I clicked into my library, like it was just going to be the PS5 version. I clicked download. I start the game. I play 1 round of multiplayer while the game's downloading the campaign still, and it didn't have haptic feedback. And I was like, oh, maybe like the haptic feedback's turned off in multiplayer, like whatever. And the campaign finishes downloading. I start the campaign mission, play through like the first 5 minutes, get to the first segment where you start shooting guns, and the haptic feedback is not working at all. And I'm like, what the fuck? Anyway, so I like back out to the menu, and it clearly says I'm playing the PS4 version. I'm like, well, that's weird. Like, why would it? Anyway, so I delete that. And then, in case you don't know, if you have multiple versions of different games on your account that have both PS4 and PS5 versions, you can click like these 3 little dots next to the game and it'll let you select which version. So I click on the PS5 version, I click download. It says queued to download. Okay. Waiting. It's not starting. I'm like, well, I have nothing I have to download. So I go into my download list, it's not there. I'm like, it's fucking weird. Like, fully restart the console, like no standby restart, see if that fixes it. Nothing, still queued for download. I'm like, what the fuck? So I Google it. I see Eurogamer wrote a report where they said that this is apparently a bug. And the only way to fix it is to factory reset your console. I'm like, well, I'm not waiting for them to fix the bug because I want to fucking play Call of Duty and write a review before hopefully this fucking next couple of days, like sometime soon. How long does this bug take to fix? So anyway, reformat the whole fucking console and then made sure to. The weirdest thing is, so when I get the console back up, I go to my game library. It's not there. Okay. So I go to PlayStation Store, find Call of Duty, click on it. Then it appears on my front menu. Still comes up the PS4 version as the default version. That's what they need to fix. That's a weird bug where it's like, I don't know why it's pushing the PS4 version to the front if it knows you're playing on a PlayStation. Like, it should not be doing that. Like, any game that has 2 versions, if you're playing on PS5, you'd think it would just recommend you download the PS5 version. Obviously, that's a weird fucking thing. Anyway, I go to PS5, I click download, takes me back to the menu. It's still got the PS4 version there. I'm like, okay, that's weird, but it's downloading the PS5 version. When it finally got chugging along on the download, it replaced it on the home menus of the PS5 version. I'm like, this is fucking weird. I think if you had the disc, obviously, you wouldn't be running into this weird sort of error because the disc would just be like, what's the PS5 version, obviously. So, weird bug. Hopefully that gets addressed. And in the long run, it was annoying. It kind of fucked up my afternoon because I was I was going to play some Call of Duty before this podcast. But ultimately, not like blue screen of death. Like, I had to reformat the console. Super annoying, but not the worst thing that could happen. Like, it was fixable in the worst way, but like, I didn't lose save files. I didn't lose, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't the horror story. Anyway, last thing I want to talk about from this past week, consoles that came out. In case anyone didn't know.
Oh my god, this fucking shit. My goodness.
In case anyone doesn't know.
Thank God.
What, you know what I'm going to talk about?
God, I give you permission to turn off the podcast now and like uninstall it.
Nintendo
from
brought out a
podcasting
brand new
service that
console
you're
this
using.
week called
Just
the
delete the download. I'm so sorry.
Nintendo Game & Watch. May have known of this thing. It came out 30 plus years ago.
I did not know. I did not know it was coming out on Friday until you tweeted about it, and I was like, "Oh,
Must be like 40 years.
Yeah, it's fucking
Maybe.
old. Like, I'm not going to talk about this for long because obviously there's not much to talk about. For the
they know what time we recorded this podcast now.
it's
They
fucking
just
late
saw,
at time. Yeah, I'm sure.
They just saw the time.
For the video version, I'm actually showing it, and it actually looks all right on the video version.
It is 40 years old.
Jesus, quite old. So the couple features for this thing is as the title said, in case you had a Game Watch and you're fucking super old like Ash, it is a watch and a game machine, so it tells you the fucking time. This screen doesn't come up as well on the video version, obviously, but it is ridiculously high quality. The one super positive thing I'll give this is the screen in this is really high caliber that I honestly was not expecting. So it tells the time. It has a bunch of secrets. IGN has articles up with like little things you can press on the main menu, little Easter eggs or whatever else. And then the other thing is that, of course, it has a couple of games. So you've got Super Mario Bros. 1. Yeah. And then you've got Super Mario Brothers 2 and number one game that we should all be talking about, which is classic juggling there. Classic. Hear that music? Hear that? Oh, classic. I used to play that old time that had the juggling game on the Game Boy Color camera. It was included on that. You could play the juggling game. You could actually take a picture of your face with the Game Boy camera and it would put your face over the juggling person. Fucking best shit. Anyway, of course, this is a very niche collectible item. No one's buying this to play Super Mario or the juggling game. You're buying this as like a cool thing to have on your desk or whatever. Like it's, and I think for the price, it was like 60 or $70 or whatever. If you're a Nintendo fan and you're into like collecting things, I actually think this is one of the cooler like re-release things they've done. Like it is super high quality, as I said, like as a device, and then also the screen. I cannot get over how good the screen is, and also the sound. Like the speakers in this, it's quite loud and it's not distorted, and that is a plus for like a small device like this. And it charges via a nice little USB-C to USB cable, so it actually charges quite nice. So if you're into weird Nintendo collectible stuff and you can find one without going onto the eBay scalpers, which of course are selling it for like $200 and something already because they're fuckheads, then that is a nice little Nintendo piece to pick up. I've been fiddling with it in between random things, like I've just done like random levels of Mario every now and then. So it is a nice thing to just have on my desk where I'm like, I'll just play like a second of Mario or whatever, and like it's cool to have. Like,
but Dylan, how many frames per second is it?
68? I don't know. 69. I mean, nice. Yeah.
Nice.
And
speaking of fuckheads though, before you wrap up the show, I just want to bring this one up because it did get me. I think it was this morning.
Was it the Cyberpunk fake one?
It was the Cyberpunk fake thing. It got me for like all of 2 seconds. I was half awake. The yellow page came up. I was like, fuck. And then of course realized it was fake. But at the same time, fuck people who do those, especially for that, because the devs are under enough fucking pressure as it is. So I hope more people who are idiots and didn't realize it was fake. Of course, they probably went and did more threats and shitty messages and stuff. Fuck them guys. And fuck people who make those accounts.
Amen.
There's been a lot of fuckheads this week.
Yeah.
When you think about it. I mean,
PlayStation fuckheads.
Shout out to the team at on Ubisoft who had a rough week, to say the least.
Yeah.
Or an interesting week.
Yeah, I didn't see a follow-up to that. I don't think it was said, but it sounded like that was potentially a swatting case, right? Like a fake call, maybe?
I believe there was a robbery at one of the stores inside the building.
Sure.
I
don't know if I saw official. Anyway, yeah, that was horrible. I mean, by all accounts, they're all fine. Obviously, a little bit shooken up as you would be, but yeah, it's been a weird week with some weird fuckheads all around amongst all these console launches. All right, that'll do it for this week's episode of Arcade Couch. Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter, heading to explosionnetwork.com/Twitter. We'll be back here next week, I'm sure, talking about more next-gen stuff. When Kieran gets his Xbox in December, I'm sure we'll be talking about Xbox once again with his.
Well,
refreshes.
it depends because if it's December 9th, I'll have one day to play Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which I'm very excited for and saving for the Xbox console.
Before you play
And then, like, a
Cyberpunk.
We'll
day or
see.
two
We'll check in every week to see if you're holding steady.
How are you going to finish
because
Horizon?
Cyberpunk
over
comes
there, by
out
the way?
like 2 days. It's on the back burner. Part of me is like, hey, it might be better on PlayStation 5. Let's hope.
It's good.
Shut up. But it comes out. It's weird that none of us have picked up Valhalla.
I've
Have
got
we?
it, yeah.
You've got it. You just haven't touched it yet.
Yeah. I mean, it's.
Okay.
I'm really excited to play it, but also it's on the bottom of the totem pile because I'm not going to review it.
You don't have to write a review for it or
I'm
anything.
planning
There's
to
no
not
expectations.
review that one because by the time I finish it, I just don't think it will be worth it.
It'll be too late.
So I'm trying to obviously. This is behind closed doors, but I said this like Ash the other day. I was like, I'm kind of excited. Like it's a new console launch. I can like try and keep up on as many games as we can. Like, and we can be like sort of covering this generation from the start. Obviously, we started Explosion Network like towards the later end of the last two ends of the console. So in a lot of ways, I'm like sort of excited to like try and like. Obviously, small team can't fucking do IGN levels of stuff, but I'm still excited to try and to keep up stuff. So I'm excited to play Assassin's Creed. It's just at the bottom of a list at the moment.
Yeah, a list of games. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Let us know any other thoughts you have on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X if you picked them up, either on our Twitters, as we just mentioned, or by emailing mail@explosionnetwork.com with the subject line Arcade Couch. And until next week, same time, same couch. Boy! Hey, don't forget you can subscribe to the show wherever you're currently listening, and you can drop a review if you can. Find more great shows like this and more content over at explosionnetwork.com, and please consider supporting us for as little as $1 over on our Ko-fi page by heading to explosionnetwork.com/support. Thanks for listening.